question or anything, just make sure, just say, hey, did you hear that?
I'll be the translator for sure.
I'll be like this. Hey.
Whoop whoop.
That's
See?
right.
We'll get it rolling right there. So, my goodness, what a treat. Thanks for everyone for tuning in to another Unexplained Cases Live. And this particular one is very special since we have a special guest that's joining us, and that would be Daryl Marston from Ghost Hunters. And Daryl, my goodness, we appreciate you taking some time out to chat with us.
Oh, no worries, guys. I appreciate it. I know it was kind of last minute. You hit me up last night. I actually just got off a podcast when you hit me up, and I said, what the hell? And I'll do it. Yeah. But
Yes.
I love doing these things, man. And I appreciate what you guys do in the field. And you guys are in the trenches. And like, yeah, I mean, I've been there. So I try to help out as much as possible with these live streams and podcasts and whatever, what have you. And I love this stuff. This is where I came from, man. This is what I was doing for years.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
That's cool. Hey, I was just, the show is awesome. You guys have millions of fans and followers. What is it like to work on a show like that? I mean, we get to see a glimpse of it for an hour, per episode, but there's a lot that goes into it. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear more about that.
Man, it's a lot of moving parts. People, they see the 6 or 7 of us, including Grant, but they don't see the other 15 or 20 people who travel with us, with producers, our audio people, our cameramen and everything, and everybody else who puts this thing together for us. And it's a group effort, like a big family. There's about 23 of us all together on the road. And when we do it, man, it's big, it's huge. It's a big production. It's huge production. It's the biggest paranormal production ever in TV. So it's pretty crazy to be part of that and have so many great people I'm working with. I'm working with people from shows that we've been watching for years, like the original Ghost Hunters. I'm working production people from there. I'm working with people in LA who've made like shows like Wicked Tuna, American Chopper, the original Ghost Hunters. So I'm working on a lot of top-notch people who've been doing this for a long, long time and know this business very well. And that's what makes this show so great. Those guys, they make us look really good. I mean, we're good investigators. Don't get me wrong. Everybody on the team is amazing, but without what those guys do, we wouldn't look half as good as we do. And we're very fortunate and blessed to have such a great crew and team, and from everybody. I mean, every single person is just amazing. We work with, and it's numbing at times being on a show like this because it's very humbling as well. Because you go out and you get to investigate some of these amazing places that no one's ever investigated before, and you get to do it with this amazing team of people, and it's all taken care of. Everything's taken. You're chauffeured everywhere to do everything.
Nice.
And, it's basically you're doing your hobby, but it's your job now. Because it was my hobby for 15 years, and it was all, everything I did for 15 years was out of my own pocket. And now I get paid to do what I love, and you can't beat it. It's the best job in the world.
Awesome, man.
See,
dang, I'm jealous.
Seriously, I think we all are.
Yeah.
It seems like season 2 basically kind of amped up the stakes there a little bit. I mean, what was the tagline? Alone and afraid. So, and of course, me being a editor, the cinematography, the filming, I was just like, I felt like even that just was like over the top, and I was just like, oh, that shot, that is so awesome. Every bit of it.
Well, this is why I tell people when I come on these shows, I tell them, you see the difference between season 1 and season 2 is a big difference. Season 1, when we hit the ground running with season 1, I felt, it's not just me, we felt like we were following the blueprint of the old show, and it was kind of stale. It needed to be redone in some way. So when season 2 came around, we literally had like maybe a week and a half, 2-week break in between filming the seasons. So when season 2 came around, we're like, hey, we went to production, we went to LA, and we're like, we want to do this differently. We want to change things up. We want to take more of a role into saying what we're doing and how we're investigating and how we want to investigate. And they were all for it. They were great about it. But they said, here's the one thing. If you do that, we're going to put you in the most remote places we can find. And we're like, okay, bring it. And they did. They brought it. I mean, they stuck us in Haines, Alaska. No one's ever heard of Haines, Alaska, man, until we went there. And I tell you what, we've been in some of the craziest locations that's taken. Some of these places take days to get to, like Haines, Alaska, for one. I mean, it took me 12 hours of traveling on a plane and plus a 4-hour boat ride to get to the location. So when you do stuff like that, and even when we went to, we were talking off the air about Clifton, Arizona. I mean, that's pretty far out there too. So this is one of those places that it was the Wild West. I mean, it was the tombstone that you never heard of. And places like that are the places that, you know, they want us to investigate, the places that have never been investigated, especially on TV. And that's what we did, man. I tell you, it was a lot. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of traveling, a lot of time away from the family. But when you sat down, you finally started watching the episodes, you're like, okay, this is why I did that. This is why I was so pissed off for 5-6 months. You know, because this is why I was miserable for the last 6 months. But it looks amazing. The cinematography, like you said, it's like you're watching every episode is like an hour or a 43-minute long Netflix movie. It's shot so well, and we love it. You know, it's amazing. And the people, you know, the crazy thing is the viewers see that too. And the viewers, I mean, we're doing so great, you know, for ratings and everything. And they're really seeing that, and they're really seeing it, you know, the team come together. And that's a big thing.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I thinking about this coming week, of course, is the season finale for season 2, which is like, my goodness, it's already here. But
I can't believe that.
Right? But like we were talking about off air before, maybe touching on that a little bit. We were talking about, since of course Darren's out in Arizona, was like, okay, there was that kicking off the season with that first episode that was being a 2-parter and was just crazy. And of course, there comes the question is like, well, did we really see how crazy that was? Knowing probably the answer is nope, we didn't see all of it. But like, what did folks maybe miss that they didn't get to see?
Well, I mean, without giving too much away because of legality and everything, it was they toned it down quite a bit from what you saw. I mean, what you saw out there, we were out there for 2 weeks, over 2 weeks. And we had some issues, and it wasn't everybody. Most of the people there, 99.9%, are amazing people. They rolled the red carpet out for us. You know, they treated us like royalty, and they were great. But there's this one little percentile that did not want us there. We're upset that we were there. And, you know, we had some altercations that happened that a lot of people don't know about. You know, they didn't show. And they can't show because you can't get releases and things of that nature. And but it got dangerous. It got scary and it got dangerous. And when you mix those two together, you mix the human aspect with the paranormal aspect, and you put that together. That's scary stuff because you don't know what's going to happen, especially with dealing with people who don't want you in their town. And it came to a point where we were like, no one's, you know, we were down to like the last, I think, 3 days there, and we had to finish up. And it came down to the point where like, no one's running us out of this town. We're going to finish our job. We're going to do what we came here to do, you know, what they want us to do. And that's what we did. And, you know, production, you know, they wanted to bring in security and everything, and they did. You know, that was something they wanted to do. They hired an entire police force from Wilcox, Arizona, to follow us in and basically be security force for 2 days while we finished up, which, yeah, it was great. We didn't have any problems or anything, but they did a great job, and we appreciate all that.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be entertainment. So you don't want to, you know, risk any kind of bodily harm for it. You know, you're doing a service, but at the same time, like you said, it was just that small part of the population. But, you know, in those small towns, which I'm sure you've experienced that on the show and other places, people get a little suspicious, you know, when groups come in there and start poking around. They're like, what's going, you know, you had mentioned that there was something about witches and, you know, anyway, the episodes were great and we're glad you guys were okay. But there were a couple of moments that's like, wow, I mean, it was pretty scary when that incident with the car you were driving, when you don't know if somebody took a shot at you or whatever happened with the tire. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah, we still to this day don't really know. I mean, like I said, I was driving the vehicle at the time, And it's kind of weird because we never really travel together as a team. Like when we're on the road, we travel in groups of 2 just for safety reasons. And that's just how it works out sometimes, maybe groups of 3. And we just happened all to be in the same vehicle that night, leaving town, and something hit the side of the vehicle. And the first thing I thought, I came from firearms. I was a firearms instructor before, ghost hunters. And it sounded like a shot. It sounded like a buckshot hit the side of the vehicle. Now, I can't prove that. I found no buckshot or anything, but it looked like that's what hit the back wheel well. And it could have been something that was lobbed at the car as well, like a rock or something. We don't know. We couldn't find anything, and it tore the vehicle up pretty bad. Thank God, it was a rental and everything, and thank God no one got hurt. But it could have been a lot worse. And, who knows at this point? It's kind of like in the past. I would love to go back to Clifton and kind of pick up where we left off, because we honestly, we were there for so long and we still didn't get to investigate every place that was having these problems. It was the entire town that was having these reports. We decided when we first got there were so many reports, we decided, hey, let's do a town hall meeting. And we had a town hall meeting, and we thought maybe 20 people would show up. We had like 150 people show up. We had to turn people away because we couldn't fit them in the building that had reports. Wow. And we were there for 4 or 5 hours just talking to people. And you saw some of that on the episode.
Yep.
But we were there for a very long time just talking to people and getting eyewitness reports. And then we try to go back and take the most of those reports, and the ones that weren't, there was multiple cases, and that's what we tried to delve into and investigate.
Well, hit me up if you come back. I want to go with you guys.
Absolutely, man. I love everything.
Well, and on the other side of that, I think you're relatively close to me since I'm out in Maryland. So it's like,
okay.
I'm not quite a stone's throw unless you got a really good arm there. But
whereabouts in Maryland are you?
So close to Baltimore.
Oh, well, you're about an hour from me. Yeah.
Oh, see, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of like what you've been up to lately, then what else besides the show have you been doing? Because I'm thinking that there's a new venture there. I wasn't sure if you still were involved with your own group, or what's going on.
I'm still involved with everybody from Breaking Paranormal and the American Ghost Hunter Show. I still own the rights to both of them, and American Ghost Hunter Show is still going very strong these days. I have a good friend of mine, Alex King, running it. But I did take on a new venture, which I'm co-owner of Paranormal Warehouse, and that kind of just fell in my lap. I've been friends with Mike and Chris for many years now, and they approached me a couple months ago and asked me if I would want to come in as a partner and take it to the next level. And I'm like, hell yeah. I've loved Paranormal Warehouse for years. I loved it when I went over there with my show, when I was doing the live streams. And it's been a big part of my career for the last 3 or 4 years. So been doing that, been bringing new shows on. That was a big push that I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of, the way it was set up was, people come on, they do their shows and everything, but you have to be vetted to be on there. We really vet people when we look at their shows and make sure it's the right material for what we're doing. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to build it. I still do. That's what I'm working on now. Structure it more like a network. And my main goal the next 6 months to a year is have anywhere from 80 to 120 shows on there. We're around 20 some shows right now. I brought in the last month probably 10 new shows on, and I'm still bringing shows on every day and every week. Some shows come on, and what I do is I do an interview with them. I want to see their product. Like I'm sitting here now. Like when I go on a podcast or a live stream, I'm watching everything everybody's doing to see if I can make them a part of Paranormal Warehouse, and that's one of the things I do. But I love it, man. I love Paranormal Warehouse. It's a big part of me, just like I love Ghost Hunter. It's a balancing act, but it's been off for 3 months now anyway, so it kind of came at the right time where I could spend some time with it and and give it the love it needs. And we're working on it, man. It's a big thing. It's the biggest paranormal live stream in the world with over 500,000 followers.
Wow.
And it's great, man. It's a great great. It's a great point for people who are trying to go to that next level with live streams and podcasts. And right now we're putting a lot into the YouTube side of it. So we're building up the viewership there, and we have something big coming. I can't really say what's going on, but something big's going to happen here in the next 2 months. And it was supposed to happen by now, but with the COVID-19 and everything, kind of set us back a little bit with getting people where they need to be for this new show that's coming and this new YouTube series we're starting to launch, and we're bringing some new YouTube people in. So yeah, that's the direction we're heading right now. We're building the YouTube side of it and the Facebook side at the same time. It's one of the only Facebook pages I ever heard of that's actually monetized. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
to hear about that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Hey, Daryl, is Darren talking? Can I ask a question?
No, go for it.
Go.
Daryl, how did you get into the paranormal work?
By complete accident. I grew up in a haunted house when I was a child, but I was too young to remember. I was like 6 when we moved out of there, and I just remember what my parents would tell me, the stories, and my grandparents. But back in 2005, 2006, and that right on that point, I actually got invited to a paranormal investigation, a local one by a local team. I didn't know what a paranormal investigator was. I watched the shows like everybody else does. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about the equipment, how to use it. But long story short, I got invited to an investigation here in Delaware, at Fort Delaware. I went, and on my first investigation, we were only there for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. And I actually saw a half-body apparition, my first investigation ever.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my man.
And
no kidding.
it was like it was meant to be. I didn't tell anybody. There was like 6 of us in the group, 7 of us maybe, and I didn't tell anybody. I sat there and watched this thing for about 15 to 20 seconds maybe, and it was from the shoulders up, and I can remember to this day. It was a man with a beard and about shoulder length hair, and he was really scraggly, like he was probably a prisoner of war. Because that's what Fort Delaware was. It was a prison camp during the Civil War.
Daryl, can I stop you really quick?
Yeah.
He's still with you. He's from the 1800s, and he's still with you. And he's actually an ancestor of yours. You're actually related. If you were able to trace it back, he's saying that you guys would actually be related, and that you were a great grandson. And he showed himself, was waiting for you specifically because he had to assist in putting you on your path. It wasn't an accident. And he's with you. He's right there. He's in a level of, he knew he was, hold on, he's trying to say so much so fast. He knew, so he is an angelic, but he knows how to bring himself down to a level that humans can see him, those disembodied levels. I'm sorry, I don't always know all of your guys' all of the paranormal terminology, but I can express it. I just don't know the verbiage you use. But he was able to bring himself down so he could see you, and then but now he's back in angelic form, has been with you ever since. The name is starting with an L, like a Larry or a Lou or something to that degree. But if you were able to do your family tree, you'd find him.
Oh, wow.
Sorry for interrupting. It just came at me.
Well, thank you. I'll have to check into that, because I do have my family tree book behind me, and they were all from the South. I'm the only one who's born out up in the North. So, you could be right. Absolutely. So I have to check into that. Thank you.
Sorry for interrupting, but go ahead.
No. Long story short, basically, I saw this apparition, and all I knew was I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody for years. But when I knew I left there that night, that I wanted to do this in some aspect. I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to start reading books and just figuring out about the equipment and things. So I started doing locally, like most people start out doing. And I met my wife. We were dating at the time, and she was into it. So we started just going to Gettysburg and Fort Delaware, and all these local places that are close to home. And then around 2011, I started my my team called Breaking Paranormal. I wanted to branch out, and it kind of it just went a bunch of different directions, and we did like almost all over the East Coast, all the way up into Kentucky and Ohio. And then in 2015, 16 is when I got into live streaming and podcasts, because I wanted to stay at home more and be able to stay in contact with the paranormal without having to investigate so much and travel so much. And I started out on YouTube like a lot of people do. I did that for about a year. And then I kind of switched back to like a podcast form. And then I wanted to get back into the live stream like you guys are doing. And I hit Paranormal Warehouse up, and they're like, we would love to have you. So next thing I know, I'm on air and having thousands of people watch me every week. And it was amazing, man. It's still amazing. I love it.
Awesome.
Man, this is very cool. Well, since we're kind of crouching up on 9:30, wanted to kind of shift just a little bit. We got a whole bunch of people that are showing up in the chat, which that's awesome. Keep sending your questions, because hopefully we'll just be able to swing back around those, whether it's questions for Daryl or for us. We'll tackle those after the remote viewing. But I guess we need to kind of break down two things. First off, the concept of remote viewing would be something that may have visions of Cold War and experiments and basically trying to figure out what the other side is talking about. And that term is actually very accurate for what one of Miriam's abilities. She would have never used that term. And actually, I'll start it off, but Maryam, I actually would love to hear from you just from your reaction of kind of how I made this connection when, as she described things to me. She mentioned earlier about not necessarily always being familiar with terminologies. I guess, Darren and I have kind of been the encyclopedia of paranormal terms and things to, something she's always done. It's like, oh, well, here's a term for it. But in this specific case, what she was describing to me felt like from Stranger Things, the first season, especially 11, when she was walking up to that individual and listening. It was kind of like the classic visual of what remote viewing might actually look like. Maryam hadn't seen the show, hadn't seen the clip. I sent it to her. And what was your reaction when you saw that, Maryam? I'll let you pick the story up.
That was like, wow, I had never seen it put into a human or physical form. That's something that Rick's been really good at. I've been doing my work my whole life, so I've never really broken it down or described it. I just did it, and Rick now is taking it and making sense of it. And so, yeah, that was pretty insane when I saw that is what I do. I've never really thought about what I do. I just do it. And then when I started working with, Rick and Darren, they asked me questions so that it can, you can, for lack of better words, make logic of it or make sense of it for those that are watching.
Exactly. So I guess the next question then would be, and Daryl, maybe I'll start with you on this out of curiosity, would be, what are you aware of relating to Hart Island?
I don't know anything about Hart Island. I've never even heard Hart Island.
That's okay. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I saw, because when you contacted me last night, you didn't tell me what this was about. You just said, could you do the show? And I saw the post today, Hart Island, and I'm like trying to think, and I never looked it up or anything. I was like, all right, this sounds like it might be pretty cool. So I'll wait till I get on the show and find out what's going on with the remote viewing.
Awesome. I like that. So starting fresh for you. So D-Dog, Darren, what about yourself?
Well, I kind of cheated because I'm a journalist, so you know that I'm always going to prepare for an interview or something like that. So I read up as much as I could through Wikipedia and everything else. Actually, there's a couple of interesting news stories that was done about it. That there's been some folks in the community there in New York that have been trying to. Well, I guess it's kind of sad. There's 1 million souls there, and a lot of it's a potter's field. So these are people that didn't have any family. Their body was not claimed. A funeral director never had anything to do with it. And just the way that they kind of stack the bodies, and they have the white markers that are, positioned around the island. So it's very creepy. One of the people they interviewed, I guess it was either a documentary about how her child had died like in 1978 and somehow unfortunately ended up on that island. But you saw her there at this grave, and you really couldn't even tell, what it was. There was no marker or anything like that. The one thing I did try to search as much as possible is it's I think it now is run by the Parks Department. It was run by the Department of Corrections because the prisoners from Rikers Island are responsible for doing all the burials and things like that. So you mentioned something about being there at nighttime. I couldn't find anything on a paranormal investigation because it's so secluded and secretive that the general public is only allowed to go there maybe once a month. And I think you have to prove that you had a relative or a family member, something along those lines, to go there and visit. So if we wanted to get all our gear and jump on the ferry, you can't do it. So that's why I'm very interested to see, with M, putting herself there. Although she probably can be bombarded though with so many spirits, because there's Civil War soldiers that are buried there because it was a prison at one time. It was an asylum. It was used during the yellow fever. It was like in the 70s, a rehabilitation for drug addicts up until 70s. I think the last time somebody lived on the island was like 1977. So a lot of the buildings are kind of crumbling. I mean, it's a spooky place. There's a lot of sadness because if you've seen some of the shots over the last month that some of the COVID-19 people that weren't claimed by anybody, they are being buried on this island now. So, I mean, it's just a sad place. It's just, what is the nickname, Rick? Is it like something of a
Island of the Dead?
Well, Island of the Dead. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is in New York.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's off the Bronx.
Yeah, right off of Long Island
Hey,
in the
Rick?
Sound.
Yep.
Can I break down really quick what I'm doing? Because I didn't really explain what's going to happen. So
Oh yeah, that was definitely going to be what I was going to ask for next, for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Want me to wait for you to ask?
No.
Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be energetically bringing myself to this location. It was something Rick and I started doing over the last year when we couldn't get out to certain locations. I found that if he gave me a photo or a couple photos, I could bring myself to that location. I think we first found it out when we were working with a young girl who had a dark presence in her home, and I brought myself into her home to get in between her and the dark energy to manage it. And then after that, we just started saying, well, hey, what if we do it with other locations? And so that's what I'll be doing now is if you see me looking down, I'm looking at photos while you guys go, but I'll be bringing myself to that location energetically. So I'll be here and there to see what's out there.
Yeah, so what I've got is some drone footage from Empire Drone, which is there in NYC, and some fabulous shots. So I want to play that, and I've actually labeled certain buildings that we'll stop at. Basically, the video will actually freeze just to give Maryam time to be able to check it out. Before we move on, so this is so unique and so organic. Daryl, if there's a question that you're just like, something just is like burning and pops up, anything that Maryam says, by all means, feel free to ask it, shout it out there basically. And then once she's kind of like, okay, I'm done, I need to back off, or whatever's a good cue, then we'll kind of move on to the next one. So if we're ready, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up dropping everybody out except for Maryam. We'll still be able to have audio, but we just won't necessarily be on screen. But I'm going to get this rolling.
What are we starting with?
So first will actually be Phoenix. And so
Okay.
that was the drug rehab, which was also an asylum beforehand.
Right.
Because
they still have an image of the rising phoenix inside the building, right, where it's crumbling down.
Yeah. And actually, with the layout, I'll probably just leave everybody in instead of dropping out. But we'll get the video rolling right now.
There's already a young man with really long hair that wants to reach out and communicate.
Okay. Well, if he's associated with Phoenix, we're kind of having an aerial. This is on the top of it, really decayed location. to say the least. So just wanted to set this up from a couple different angles of what the building looks like. And so information is that, yeah, I know, right. That's a pretty cool shot. So this was actually an asylum before it became known as Phoenix House, which was for drug rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be our first stop.
So this first young man is super angry. He's so angry because he was left there. He was left there. Saying something about the 70s, or I don't know if this was functioning in the 70s or if he was in his 70s when he actually passed. But he's so angry that he was left there. I'm trying to ask him so tell me, I need you to just stop for a second. He's so angry. He never should have been brought there, and he never should have been left there. He never should have. Okay. So hang on. What is it that we want to? I want to bring some peace to this guy because he was yelling way before we even started. What can I do to what? Okay, right now he's just telling me his story. I was really young. I wasn't on drugs. There was like a something wrong in my it was something wrong in my head. I was always off. Something wasn't right in my head. I was always like that as a young boy. I was always like that, and I tried to control it, and I would get yelled at if I behaved wrong, if I did the wrong things, and I was trying so hard to not do the wrong things, and I never. He wasn't on drugs. They put him on drugs. So I never did drugs. They put me on drugs. And these drugs, he's saying this was before he ended up at this location. They had him on drugs. And he was, the drugs is what messed him up and pushed him over the edge and why he ended up here. He ended up here because of insanity. They're saying that he had gone insane. But he said, I was always inside there. My soul was always in there. They just wouldn't hear me. It's so sad. He said, nobody could hear me. It was like I was locked in my body, and I wanted to be okay so bad. I wanted to be normal so bad. I wanted my parents to know that I never wanted to be this way. His parents are long gone. They don't care about him. They didn't care about him then. They don't care about him now. But I want you to know that don't worry about your parents. Don't worry about them. What matters now is you, and what matters now is that we're going to call in all of your guides who are already there. You don't need me to call them in. They're already there. They're going to help because those parents are a different lifetime. Doesn't matter anymore. You experienced exactly what you were supposed to experience. You were there to teach, not just these parents that were so negligent with you, but you were there to teach others. Doctors around you. There was 2 doctors in specific around you that were very intrigued by who you were and what was going on with you. They understood that there was this sixth sense, this psychic, that they didn't use these words, but like psychic type ability you portrayed. In today's day, you never would have ended up there. You would have simply been considered a medium of sorts. But here we are. And what's most important is that we get you moving on with your life. You're stuck because you're so angry. You're stuck because you were treated unfairly. 100%. I agree. 100%. But that was part of your path. That was not an accident. So how can we do this? What do you want to do? I want to go home. Okay. This is going to take a minute. So, I'm going to let you sit because I know that you're ready, you say, but we're not going there yet. We're not kind of getting up and moving. You're just sitting. So I'm going to let you sit. Okay. So here's the situation. He's hooked into me now because he knows A, that I can hear him, and B, that I can relate to him. So I'm going to have to be a little harsh, because he'll just stick in and he'll just live with me, and he can't. So I'm going to, his name's Michael. Okay, I'm going to disconnect from you, Michael, because you have this amazing life that you can live. Okay, you're not to live through me. That wasn't what this was about. Okay, I'm not the first person that's heard you. Others have heard you. I can feel you. I can feel your pain and sadness. So Michael, your angels are right behind you. It's all you need to do is turn around, and they're going to take care of you. So I'm being told that I need to disconnect from him, because if I don't, he's going to latch on, and it'll become a codependent situation, and it won't empower him to move on. So his angels are there. When you're ready, you have just turn around and you can leave, and you start over. You cleared your karma in this life. You get to start over. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, you can move on. Are you guys even there still? Am I still here?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So Daryl, any questions off of that first experience?
And I might have, I know she can't hear me, but is Michael, was he buried there then too? And I might have missed that. I was trying to take notes.
Darren.
Oh, you can. Okay. I'm sorry, Mary. Was he buried there? I missed that. I apologize.
That's okay. That's a good question. So what I was experiencing was him in the building.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I can't answer that question. It would be a guess. Like, would you guys all agree he probably was, right?
Yeah. Mentally ill. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was in the building. Like he lived in that building.
So when just to maybe let the people know, when we did that aerial shot, do you just see images or flashes of people, or how do you really connect like that? I mean, that was fascinating, and Rick and I know, but maybe people who are listening would like to know more about how you're able to do that to make that connection with somebody like that.
Well, what's interesting is every time we do this, my electronics at some point will go down, and mine are down right now. But to answer your question, I bring myself, energetically, I move to that space, and then I feel who's in the space. It's kind of like if you walk into a room and you look around, see who's there. Oh, I know that person. Oh, I know that person. And so I'm walking in looking for me, I go for souls that need assistance, not just for anything and anyone. It's who needs my help, and who can I help? How can I be of service? That's what I'm looking for. So it's like if you were to run into a burning building, if you see a person, you go to that person and you pull them out. Like, it's the same thing. I'm walking in and I'm saying, who needs help? Oh man, this guy needs help. Not everybody wants help and wants to move on. A lot of people enjoy being stuck. So that's why it's looking to see who's reaching out.
Gotcha. Well, it's interesting because you mentioned the 70s, because it was a rehab place until like 1977. So Michael probably was there between that 1967 to 77 range.
Okay. Wow. No kidding. Oh, it's awesome.
So we'll get the video rolling again. So here's our next stop on our Hart Island tour. This is going to be the chapel that's there. So we're kind of going down. Now we're kind of crawling up on it. As with everything, every structure on the island is deteriorated to some degree.
Work.
Wow.
So yeah, so here's our chapel, and we'll go a little bit of a freeze on that guy.
Okay, I'm back up. Okay. This is quiet. This is quiet. This doesn't have this is what are they saying? This is almost like a sanctuary area on this island. it's like this, it's like, it's where the peaceful go. It's where those that go just to, it's like they're showing me like these energies, these people that just went and collapsed and said, okay, I'm done, I'm ready. And they just moved on. So there isn't in this particular area, there's a sense of peace and just no one's stuck. Everything is okay right here. Yeah. I can't hear anyone if anyone's talking. Hey, Rick.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, now I can. Okay. I couldn't hear anything after you put up the chapel. Could you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So I moved us on to the next picture that you have, but also being shared is the a building that's associated with the prison area.
Okay. Okay, so I've got some people here for sure. Let's see what we. Oh, this area. This is fascinating. This is like, so we've got this chapel that we were just looking at. That is just this like the only way I can describe it is just like when you lay down on your pillow and it's just like the best, like laying in your bed is just like the best feeling ever from a long day. Like that's how everyone felt there, like this peace and this calm and this just what you would think and hope everyone feels when they pass on, which is what these guys did. Now, so that energy, that space, that chapel, it's almost like it's got this fencing around it, and you can't enter that space unless you are fully like light filled and transitioned. And then we've got this other space over here, this prison. And I'm not saying prison because we think prison, ooh, bad, scary. It's not because of that. And I think it's important. There's plenty of that we know and understand that there's plenty of beings that are in prison and that have passed on quietly and peacefully, and because their karma was played out and their time has moved on. So I think it's important that we understand that it's not just an ooh scary prison. It's okay, this just happens to be a location that now is, it's like they're showing me like these two like they're saying like the Crips and the Blood, or like these two gang related spots. No one can go into the other turf, you know. It just so happens that one's light and one's dark. And so this darker energy has this I gotta look, but where I get my info from here, my crow wants me up, wants to stay up. It's got this being around it, this dark being around it. Hold on, I'm gonna tap into him in just a second. I say he, it's not necessarily male or female. Because if you notice demonic energy, we tend to lean towards masculine, which no offense to men, I don't know that necessarily always is, but that's just kind of the go-to word. Okay, so hang on, I gotta pull something up for myself here. This one picture is where I've got everybody. All right. Okay, so we've got, so if you were there right now, if you were there, you would, your I don't know the terminology for your equipment, but it would be going like crazy right now. The reason for that is because obviously darker energies love the attention and love to get people riled up. So that's why if you had walked near the chapel, you probably wouldn't have felt a lot, because the beings are peaceful and they're not really there anyway. Here, these entities just love to get people riled up and scared and freaked out and all that. So there's this one being in particular. This being, what's fascinating is in many situations, I'm being told that these darker energies, like there's levels in light, there's levels in dark, there's levels in life, right? In human life. And so I'm being told that this darker entity joined this space, and it's like they look for territory to take over. And this was around the 50s, actually. This energy came in and said, this is my space now. This is what I'm going to own now. I remember when we walked the Pasadena Bridge, that there was a similar setup where there's these, like, this is my domain, that's your domain. So that's this energy. Okay, I'm gonna engage right now with him. So this is definitely a demonic. This is probably the most demonic I've come across. Because there's dark energies and there's darker energies, and then there's like that true demonic sense. And this energy is making it very clear that's who they are. Only reason why I'm engaging right now is for everybody watching, or else I would not be engaging with this. What are you doing? So, Rick, hashtag Ask a Demon. You guys have a question you want me to ask this present?
Why is he still there? There's no, if people don't go out there and investigate these places, why is that energy still there? What's it feeding off of?
There's souls, a ton of souls that haven't passed over, that are stuck. They haven't passed over because of him. So he came in, and there was people in body that he could manage and, just kind of manipulate. And now those beings aren't in body, and he's like, these when you're in the spiritual realm, it doesn't matter if you're really in body or not. They can mess with you in and out of body, and that's what he's done. He's just kept his tribe there, and they're all. This could be a big project to go in and handpick these people out and get past this guy. But that's why he's still there. He's got his gang there.
Okay.
Wow, because you're talking about an island with COVID-19 victims, the forgotten, the homeless, just folks who had no family, sometimes by mistake. So basically, any one of these could end up getting trapped there, is what it sounds like.
This group that this demonic presence is hovering over, they've been together a long time, and he's actually not bringing in others. This is a very specific area. And so this island is fascinating because it's like got all these different like islands within it, that barriers around each area, kind of like what I said with the chapel had its barrier around it, they couldn't enter. This guy's got this barrier around it, they can't enter. Those energies that you referenced, Rick, are not a part of this. This is all very old.
Okay.
And you haven't picked up on any type of Native American spirits, have you at all? Because
No.
going back, no. Okay. Because I know they inhabited that island.
It's as we move around, I may find it, but like I'm going into like neighborhoods on this island, and like when you go into a neighborhood, you're just surrounded by that. That's, what I'm saying? You're like, God, this neighborhood's just run down. And then you drive a little farther, and all of a sudden, oh, look it, there's this, there's that. That's where I'm at, where we're just in this specific area.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No, so basically it's like they have their own cliques there.
A good way of putting it.
Exactly.
It's a very good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It seems to be very common that goes on, that those cliques happen. I feel like there's this. I feel like there's a question. Does someone have a question in the comments?
Was it a prison in the 50s? Is a question actually.
Mm. Is that a fact check for Darren, or is that for me?
No,
Well,
I don't
I'm
know,
not-
Rick. I can't remember when it was. It was for actually for, wasn't it Civil War soldiers for Confederates? Weren't they actually there? Although that building is not that old.
No, a prison is actually fairly recent. I don't necessarily have a full timeline at my disposal, but I mean, the history of the island definitely goes back, certainly Civil War, even pre-prison. That was actually a fairly recent, I mean, like I would say probably maybe even as early as the 70s that prison shut down.
Yeah, because then they went to Rikers Island after that, I bet.
That was the transfer. Yep. And so then you had Rikers Island inmates were responsible for burying the dead for like 50 cents an hour or something like that, basically.
Jeez.
You know, talk about a job there. Yeah, seriously, right? But now even inmates aren't allowed on the island because of COVID. I guess CDC may have jurisdiction, or someone in hazmat suits are burying those bodies. So.
Oh, interesting.
It would take it'll take some time to help rid this energy, the demonic presence, and then clear all of the bodies, spirits. That might be a job that we would team up with someone who, you know, works with demons. We do that together, and then I can help. It's kind of like someone holds the demon back and I run and grab everyone and get them out, is what like I'm seeing happening.
Wow.
So that's something that they're saying we could and should do.
Wow. Okay.
Just not now. It'll take.
Yeah. My good. That's well. This is kind of like we're doing a scouting run. So it's like, okay, make a note. And I figured you were going to need to disconnect from that situation pretty decently. So
I was kept really far away from it. I wasn't allowed to go near it.
Okay. So I'll get the video rolling again. See if we have anything else. These other buildings that are around this, because it's basically it's kind of like the center of the island is just one big prison complex. I tried to find some identifiers of exactly what they were. So this next one here, I kind of was going to refer to this as like the Christmas building. Just because you've got like red, you got red, green, and white going on right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt someone in there.
We don't know what that building was, right?
No, I scoured the interwebs as best I could, and all seemed to be part of the prison, but I couldn't find any specific identifiers.
I mean, it might have been like an administrative building or something for the prison.
Right. Right.
I'm seeing nurses, maybe not nurses, but white little old school nurses hats, the white nurses uniform. Women, they're in the uniforms are old school, like the dresses and the white shoes. This could actually be nuns. It's just they're showing me these women that are I'm just seeing all these women running around, like it feels like a hospital environment, you know, like they're maybe like you said, Daryl, administrative, but they're in their nurses. Yeah, they're saying nurses. There were some nuns, but it's nurses. Hold on, there's a lot of worry and concern here. There's a lot of worry. They're saying pandemic. So this was around a time when there was another pandemic of some sorts. Smallpox. When was that? Was it smallpox?
I was going to say I was wondering if it was tuberculosis, but I think the island would have been used regardless of what the outbreak was. Just like a smallpox hospital that's also not too far away. yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all that that was used, because islands were used for isolating during pandemics.
So I'm inside with all these nurses, females. There's no doctors around, which is why I keep leaning towards this administrative comment, because I'm not seeing rooms and patients. I'm not seeing doctors. I'm seeing nurses. I'm being told nuns as well. And they're panicking. And there's this group of them that are still there because they couldn't manage what was happening. And they were so dedicated to their craft, to their work, and to these people. They were determined to fix and to heal, and they couldn't. And so these nurses that are there right now, it's like I'm standing in between them, and they're all just racing past me. They're just ignoring me. They're still like in that. There's so much sadness and guilt that they couldn't save all these people, that they're stuck. Hang on, I'm trying to grab one. Anyone? They say that they've been visited by so many mediums they don't trust. But I'm not just visiting. I help. I want to help. What can I do to help? Wow, they're really stuck. And I don't use the word stuck negatively. I'll come back and fix that. I'm saying they're really stuck because they started telling me, like, barking orders at me, like, take care of this and go do that, and this room needs that, and this that. Like, I'm like, hey, I don't mean that kind of help. They're not getting what I'm trying to achieve with them. We're not passing over. We're staying. They're staying until this gets resolved. Okay, I'm going to call in some guides and ask these poor women, what's happening? Why aren't they understanding what I'm here for? Their guides are saying they don't want to. Their guides are saying that this is a purpose-filled. This is part of their purpose. This is important that they stay and they continue to kind of move in this fashion. It's part of their evolution, spiritual evolution, and that I am not to interfere with that. If you notice they're saying, you try to engage, you try to grab one and say, hey, what can I do? And they look at you as if you are one of them and instruct you to work. Right. So, okay. You visited. These guides are saying to me, okay, you visited, but it's time to go. Okay, it's time for me to go. Okay, I'll respect that.
Wow.
I was wondering if what you were seeing was actual residual energy from something that happened a long time ago.
That's like to put it in, like, I don't want to use this language, but it's the only way to describe it. It's like they're connected with spirit, God, whomever you refer to, and they're working with that source. And it's kind of like if someone walks into the Oval Office, some random person, and they're like, hey, I want to help, and they're like, what are you doing here? That's kind of what I felt like. They were like, yeah, we don't need you here. So that was a little ego bust, but yeah, that's what that was.
Well, now before I get to a couple of questions, since we're actually kind of chatting, Daryl, I want to be really respectful of your time, because we talked about an hour, but I didn't know if you could still hang with us, or
yeah, I could do another 20 minutes or so. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate that. Because one question right here we had from India was, well, Maryam, do you think that they know that they're dead?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm so embarrassed to go back and ask now.
Well, I don't think that they were allowing you to really ask anything.
They're too busy.
Being an investigator.
Let me ask my guides, so I'm not interfering.
Well, I mean,
yes, they knew.
What
yes.
I'm is residual.
Yes, they understand that they're dead. That was clear.
Okay.
So
And
Daryl, they're kind of on that loop in time, sort of.
Yeah,
They're doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, maybe
You know,
tap it,
it's funny
maybe-
because I learned that word the other day. Rick taught me that when we encountered this before. And in this situation, that loop is not a negative thing. If we had all the time in the world and I didn't bore everybody to death, I could connect with spirit and spirit could walk me through what I mean by that. But they're saying the simple version is that's not always a bad thing. And for every situation, it's different. And the spirit's evolution requires certain experiences, just like the human evolution requires specific experiences. So they're saying, just like we go through school, you know, first grade through college, these souls go through school, and this is part of that schooling for them. And so it's really important that when we, they're saying when we engage with these energies, that we really take each energy specifically for it and for its life experience, its spiritual experience, because it's never going to be the same twice. It is always going to be this evolution that will look different and feel different. It's just like there's no two human beings that are the same, even if they're born twins. There's no two human beings that are the same. They will all have unique life experiences that will require unique connections, teachings. The spirit world is exactly the same. They're saying it's so important that we start to see that these worlds are so similar that they're not separate. Sorry, I could keep going, but I asked them to stop. Go ahead.
No worries, Daryl. You were talking about residual, or what else were you thinking from what you saw?
Well, no, I mean, it's all theory, of course. We've come across lots of residual haunts where it's basically a tape that keeps playing itself. Depending on what, and usually what we find is it's usually what the building or the property, you know, as far as, you know, what it's made of or what it's actually built on top of as far as different minerals and stone. And it could be the residual tape that just keeps playing like Groundhog Day. It just keeps playing itself over and over and over again. And maybe you tapped into that and they're just going, it's like to them, it might be 1920 and they're just going about their a day and they're fighting, you know, TB or something, or tuberculosis, and you step in and they see you as maybe thinking maybe you're a new nurse or just somebody who shouldn't be there in the first place, and they're like, you know, get the hell out of the way, we're busy. So that's a theory.
I didn't hear any of that, but
sorry. Yeah, well, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It just, you don't have to repeat. I don't want to bore everyone with me, but if there's anything you wanted me to respond to.
No, I was just going to pop up this. India also is like, are they trying to look after other spirits? And, you know, I'm not necessarily sure if they were thinking they were looking after other spirits as much as they thought they were, you know, in their timeline there, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not looking after other spirits. It's a good question, though.
Absolutely. And then one last one before we move over, just an interesting thought. Maybe they think it's starting again because of COVID.
Ah, that's fascinating. That's deep.
Yeah. Yep. So thanks for taking us deep there, Melanie. So let's move on here from this building. Then we'll go on to our next hit parade once my freeze here. All right. So now we have another very similar building that's also, again, close. It's shaped like a U. It's got a little square structure behind it. But this is, again, you know, 2 stories, basic. Could be admin, especially if you're talking about red bricks. You know, if the other one was even more of a hospital, maybe this right here is actually truly.
Was that the prison?
Yeah, this is still associated with the prison.
That picture you have up of the prison is the one where I had that demonic energy in.
This specific one right here, then. Interesting.
That one right there.
Okay, interesting. All right, so not the other structure then. Okay. Well, then if that's the case, then we've already touched on this guy, so I'm gonna keep things rolling.
Which other structure? Tell me the.
Yeah, this is not the same.
This
is
one
not
maybe?
prison, the one you were just
Were you
on.
thinking? Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so this whole area, this whole square area, this compound right here, this is considered the prison,
Okay.
every bit of this. And so I was just focusing in on individual buildings. And so, like in this case, I wasn't really sure if we'd find anything in this back quadrant, if you will, around this tall tower. I'm just going to kind of
Okay.
refer to this as industrial. And then plus there's a sign on the back. You may not be able to see it really close, but it says "Prison, stay away." Is on the side of it.
Yeah.
Very inviting.
Right, you know, it's real warm fuzzy there, basically. But
That's right.
so I just kind of wanted to focus on this area right here.
I didn't get anything from that one. This
Okay.
building's interesting. I mean, well, yes, I'm looking at pictures, but yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm on the same one as you now. There's a I don't know why I'm laughing. He's interesting. Guard, a security guard. He's a security guard, prison guard. He's not stuck though. He's he's funny. He just is like, I popped in because I heard that there was someone here, and so I'm here to kind of give you a tour if that's what you want. Okay, I mean that's pretty loaded. Like you're asking me to like, that's a lot of information for me to take in. But hang on. He said he was told that I was down here wandering around. Okay, I've watched over this land for so long. I did it in body. I feel an obligation to do it out of body. I do it because there's energies that come. Oh, that's interesting. It's like he used the word body snatchers, which sounds so silly, but I swear that's what he said. He's saying, no, that's what I said. So he's saying that's why I feel an obligation to look over this place, because beings come in and steal bodies. Are they stealing physical bodies, or are you saying like souls that are transitioning are kind of being caught and like kind of held where in that like demonic presence like we saw earlier? He's no, not that. That's separate. But he's saying, although I know what you're referencing, that area is dark. But he's pointing over here. I don't know how to show you guys over here. Is this areas where body snatchers? I can't get clarity because my mind jumped in when he said that word. So we might have to come back to that. My mind, as soon as he said body snatchers, my mind went, what? And so now I'm struggling with interpreting that. So I'm going to kind of move away from it for a minute so I don't misread it.
What about grave robber? Is that the same or different?
He said body snatcher.
Okay.
And it's feeling like there's this sense of it's a soul snatch, like pulling of the soul. That feels more what he's explaining than a physical body removal. He's saying, so he's okay, hang on, bro. I can't keep up. It's too much information. Okay. Okay, this guy's he's just so excited that I'm there and that I want to ask questions. Although I need him to just hang on for a sec. Do you guys have questions you want me to ask him? Otherwise, I'm not really sure where to go with this.
No, it was just I'm kind of confused about the whole body snatching thing too. What does he mean by that?
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you can't just float over that. You know, just go like, hey.
Yeah, you're kind of dropping something big. Like, oh yeah.
Is where we used to eat breakfast. Hang on. Roll it back. Okay, so let's talk about that. So so out of body, okay, so when I was in body, I would monitor the land, I would monitor the environment. For the most part, nothing crazy happened. I was actually more monitoring from the people in the buildings getting out than anyone out getting in. Okay, so now what now? Now that you're out of body, what is this? So there's this fascinating void that I have experienced. I'm speaking as him right now, that I have experienced. And what happens is these energies come and they take these bodies right at the moment that they pass, and they take the clarification, body or soul, soul. They take this. He's just really anxious to tell the story, so I got to slow him down. So they take the soul. What do they do with them? What do they do with them? It's this game. It's like this sick, twisted game. He said, imagine in body some of the sickest things that humans do to each other. That's what's happening. Okay, so how do you protect someone from that? He says that I am able, he said, that's why, he said, I see you. He said, you do what I do. You get in between and you stop energies. You stop them from moving in. That's what I do. Oh, it's fascinating, dude. I felt that in my chest. He said, I get right in the middle and I get in their face. This is, he's a character. He's like, get right in the middle. I get in their face. And I tell him, it's either both of us or none of us. Okay. It's sounding a little bit like Clint Eastwood now, isn't he? Right? I don't even watch Clint Eastwood, but okay. So I get it. He's really proud of his work. He's very, he loves the power that he has, and not in a bad way. He actually is really being of service, but he likes to brag about it. And he likes to say, look what I can do. And it's very important work that you're doing. So I get in between them, and okay, he's showing me, I need words. And so he's showing me that he's able to, because that he vibrates light and he understands who he is as a light-filled being and as an angelic being. He understands his ability to confront darkness, and darkness has to back down. And that's what he does. He loves his role. He says, I have no desire to come back in body. I'm really happy doing this work. I would love to continue to do this work. And I'm going to continue to do this work, because he talks fast too, because he says influx of bodies. There's an influx of bodies. We know this, right? We know this through COVID. I don't know if you can follow. I'm going in and out from me to him. Simply because I don't want him taking over my body, which is why I jump in, so that he can't take over my body. Not in a bad way, just I don't like being speaking through me. Keep it separate. But he's saying there's an influx coming in now. There's an influx coming in. It's very important that I am protecting, and I am present to manage them. Okay. This is his work. This is what he does. And he would give us a tour if I let him, but it's too much work for me to walk around and point at things and explain what they are.
Well, when was the last time he spoke to a living person, Maryam?
I'm hearing 50s again. The 50s. 1950.
Wow. Any other questions, Daryl? Darren?
Does he have a name?
She might not be able to hear us.
No, I heard that, Darren.
Oh, do you have a name for him by chance? Did he tell you who he is?
Oh, I wish. Yeah, hold on. Let me reconnect with him. Oh, he's right there. James? God, that was easy.
James? Jim?
And I'm not, as Rick knows, I'm not usually that on it with names, but God, these guys are just yelling out the names to me. Oh, because Lou or Larry, what did I say for Daryl?
Mm-hmm.
That's who's here. That's who's helping. That's why this is so easy with names. Okay.
So he's assisting you as well
James.
during this.
Interesting.
Okay.
Right. So let me make sure I was understanding that. So you're saying that who you identified from
You're Rick,
Daryl?
but Darren, you can tell me.
So I think what Rick is trying to say, that who you identified when Daryl first, we first started talking about his spirit guide, about the first apparition that he had saw, that's still with him, that person you're kind of speaking with now and helping you to get some of the names?
Yes, he came through even before we connected. Yeah. And was like, I'm going to be helping you with this today. So that's who's helping. That's why the connection is so clear for me today.
That's interesting. He seems like he was a real tough guy, New Yorker, one of those forget about it kind of guys.
Exactly.
The security guy?
Yeah, kind of like, hey, I got this, you know, hey.
Yes.
While we're on it, had a question. Darren, you may need to read that. I'm not sure, unless obviously Miriam could see it on the screen.
Okay, we got one from Jessica. It says, who is they, the ones taking souls, or who is this exactly he is protecting from? So is it maybe a dark entity type thing?
That's a great question. Let's see. Give me a sec. That might be a big... Okay. Now that I know his name, I said, okay, James. I asked him the question. He was like, okay, let me tell you. So these guys, they come from the East, and they've done this for centuries. There's this, like, who are they? There isn't a name. It's just these forces. Hold on. It's a tribe that was misled into believing they were not powerful unless they stole that power from someone or something else. And this tribe, wherever that theory started and came from, is who is soul snatching, basically. That was a great question and a fascinating read.
Wow. Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's very intriguing.
It feels very Native American, maybe? I don't know. Yeah.
Maryam could be Native American.
Yeah, it absolutely. Here's the thing: this is the fascinating thing about when the mind gets involved, because they were very clear that they said Native American, but my mind went to, but Native Americans are kind and gentle, and they said, just like everyone and anyone, there's good and there's bad. So I just chose to not say Native American because I let my mind get in the way. But now that was said, yes.
Wow.
I'm sure with the settlers probably drove them from the island or something like that, you know, way back in, 1600s or something like that. Wow. That's fascinating. I mean,
they're saying this tribe had red down here. They wore red paint down here, down the front here. They had yellow across the chest. They were not good. They never were good.
That'd be intriguing to do some research on war paint there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some way you can.
That's not James telling me. That's my guides telling me that.
Okay.
I'd love to see Ghost Hunters film an episode there.
I was, dude.
I've been thinking about it the whole time. What's it going to take? Can Grant pull some strings or what?
Yeah, it's like in my head right now. I'm just thinking ways we can get there.
Oh my, right?
Well, I'm like, you've got it all there. Basically, you've got everything from peaceful tranquility all the way up to full blown demon. So right. I mean, and everything in between. So
in a place that's never been investigated. You know what I mean? Nobody's been there at nighttime except for maybe security people.
Yeah, I know that would be amazing to go out there and investigate. I mean, with the whole COVID-19 thing right now, it kind of sucks. Yeah. But God, I'm definitely going to spitball that at LA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and here's just a few more shots here. Basically, I'm not actually gonna linger on. This building right here. We don't have to visit it unless Miriam suddenly says, "Oh, wait a minute, there's somebody yelling at me." But I labeled it compound because an old map had it as that. It's literally just some walls left, but this shot right here just kind of like says it all. I mean, you just have these pockets of structures but you've got a strip of land that's about a mile long. That's got 1 million bodies. Erosion is actually taking some bones out into the water, washing up on other shores.
Oh gosh.
You know, COVID-19 patients today. I mean, yeah.
Well, you saw all the white, one of the things in this documentary I watched, back in the old days, well, I don't know how many years ago, they would actually have, headstones, to mark the grave sites. Well, there's so many bodies out there now, they're using PVC pipe. I mean, isn't that terrible? Yeah. They're burying bodies and they're putting a PVC pipe up there. I mean, it's just so sad.
Yeah.
Well, it's a potter's field. I mean, you're lucky you get anything, There's
right.
One other question right here. I mean, Maryam, I don't necessarily know if you want to weigh in on this one. I'm just looking over the list. I would actually say yes. That's a very real thing, that there is possession. It's definitely not necessarily something that's terribly common, but it can happen. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's hardcore. I was about to say, Daryl, what do you have any experiences with that?
I mean, to come across a demon during investigations is like you have a better chance of getting hit by lightning twice in the same day. It just doesn't happen. But it's been going on for thousands of years, demonic possession and things of that nature. I've fortunately have never ran across anything like that. And I never want to. So yeah, it's not something common. You hear that term thrown out there a lot, demon. Especially on TV. And it's unfortunate because it's not like that in the real world. Usually if you come across a demon, you don't know they're there. They take their time. They're very patient, and they latch onto people who are carrying a lot of baggage around with them or have problems. And they feed on that. They feed on that negativity, and you don't know it till it's too late. And it's not something you come across every day. I've been doing this for 16 years almost, and I've never ran across anything like that. Thank God.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, we've been doing, my goodness, I guess about the same amount of time, about 20 years going back for Darren and I, and the closest thing that we came up to something was that was in Alton, which that would be your buddy Brian's back door there, basically. Yep. And that was at the McPike Mansion when Darren had some dowsing rods. We were doing a communication, and everything was going along nice. Family members were talking, and then it took a weird turn.
Yeah, it got dark. Yeah, it got really dark, and started asking some questions about, okay, who's here with me? We thought it was the kids. McPike's kids, and it was fun and games. And then for some reason, Rick, you felt like somebody was like hitting you in the back. You had some kind of weird back pain. And so I remember asking, our guides, I guess at that time, were the kids, is there somebody else here with us? And they said yes, with the dowsing rods. And then I asked, is it a demon? And they confirmed that. And so I know we broke into the Lord's Prayer at that time, and basically shut everything down, thanked our real guides, and then, like I said, did the Lord's Prayer and moved on. In all the years we've been doing it, in 20 years, that's the only time that it's ever happened. And I do remember you had the back pain, and I was so sick, I was going to throw up. I had this nauseous feeling, and I remember kind of bent, kind of putting my hands on my hips and just kind of, that's the only time I've had anything like that. And I, what it was, I have no idea, but yeah, those things exist, and you got to be really careful. And so,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I've ran across some really bad entities that are just nasty. They were probably nasty people in life. And it could have been, there's some things I've ran across that I don't think were human. I'm very hesitant to use the D word, the demon word, but I've ran across stuff that I'm pretty sure wasn't human, wasn't a human spirit. And it could have been elemental or whatever you want to label it as. But it's unfortunate because you do run into those type things on investigation from time to time. It's very seldom, but when it does happen, you remember it and you never forget it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to forget that one.
For sure. Well, and I'm going to ask a question real quick, and also give folks that are in the chat if they have any questions for Daryl, because certainly kept you longer than we planned, and greatly appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
if anybody has any questions, ask it. I definitely was curious, especially since we've seen with Ghost Hunters, we've had, and of course, as with any technology, things evolve, new material come out. I think the data logger was one of the first ones that I was like, no, that's pretty sweet, having everything in a nice compact box.
Yeah.
Lots of new tech that Brandon has got to play with lately that's been fascinating. But I'm just kind of curious, like, what's Daryl's favorite go-to tool or trade there for all this?
I'm big on, I love we introduced the EMCCD camera this season, which people don't realize the camera's been around for 30 or 40 years. It's been used by NASA, by the military, and by certain fields in the science field. It measures single photon events. So we were fortunate enough to have a friend of Brandon's who had one, who's a scientist and an engineer, and say, hey, we have some interest in the paranormal. Why not give this to you guys on Ghost Hunters, because we know you guys are serious investigators, and see if you capture anything with it. And to tell you the truth, when we first got it, we're like, okay, how's this thing work? Is it going to work? We were on the fence. And the first run with it was amazing, the evidence we captured. And we've been using it ever since. We got it probably about halfway through season 2. I can't wait to implement that, further on and see what we find. But it's an amazing piece of equipment. But I think my real go-to, which is an affordable go-to for anybody out there investigating, would probably be body cams. I love the body cam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy. You just turn it on, you clip it onto your shirt or your jacket, and it's like having another investigator with you, and you forget about it. And amazing evidence.
If you didn't have a body cam for the episode where, sorry, bro, to me, it was one of those moments. I know it was crazy, but the fact, here you are, this big burly guy basically jumping back because something was rushing at you. Yeah. And I'm like, that was real. But if you hadn't had that body cam on, there would have been no evidence of what you saw.
It would have been a personal experience. And thank God. I mean, I am a full advocate of the body cam. It's crazy because ever since that episode came out, the Alaska episode, you don't know how many times a week I get asked, like people messaging me or on social media, what's the serial number of the body cam you wear? Or what kind of body cam is that? And I see body cam sales like shoot through the roof, man, in the last month or so.
Wow.
It's crazy. Everybody has them now. Everybody's using them. And I love it. I love that I was able to, you put that out in the forefront, because we actually been using them since season 1. It's just I don't think we put that much emphasis on it, and we weren't as serious about it with the body cam. And then we started wearing them, and we started capturing this amazing evidence, like I did in Alaska. And I tell you what, and with with having Brandon and Brian come in the building after Mustafa and I with the EMCCD and capturing that same evidence, that same entity or whatever crossing the hallway with that, just backed it up just even more. I mean, we caught that apparition 3 times in one night, and that's on 2 different cameras. That's insane. And you could hear it. I mean, you could hear it loud as day running down the hallway at me, and it was so loud it scared my producer and my sound girl, who were a floor below us. It scared the hell out of them because they could hear it running. And they were like, they could hear me, they could hear my voice, I was shaking. I mean, because what you're seeing is IR, but I can't see anything. It was pitch black in there. And all I saw was a dark mass running down the hallway at me. And I didn't know if it was a person, an animal. I didn't know what it was. And my first instinct was to jump back into that doorway and let it go by me. And, thank God I had that on, man. And I went back and I reviewed the evidence. I was the happiest man in paranormal history when I found it.
Well, especially in that moment, because boy, that would have really stunk if it was just like, this is what happened to me. But no, in cameras, anybody
to confirm it? Yeah.
You would have. We caught it. The crazy thing is because you would have probably heard the EVP. We did capture a really cool EVP at the same exact time. It was saying, "That's me. That's me." And I don't know. I don't think it was trying to hurt anybody or scare anybody. I think it was just like excited that somebody was actually able to make contact with it. And it wasn't, we're in Alaska. We're in Haines, Alaska. No one's ever
Right.
investigated there, and this entity could have been there for 100 years, and no one's ever tried to make contact with this poor thing, or this
Right.
poor person. And finally, a bunch of people come in there and are trying to talk to it for once, and it was probably just excited that somebody was there.
Wow. Well,
Cool.
this has been an absolute amazing conversation.
I had a great time. Yeah.
That was awesome.
I think as far as these podcasts go, this was probably more unique there, basically, because you didn't have to do a whole lot of talking, but you got to see some
It was
really
cool.
interesting investigations there.
Doing the remote reading with Maryam, that was awesome. I've never done it before. I've read like the CIA reports and stuff when they were doing it back in the Cold War era, which was always really cool to know that our government was using technology like that. Viewing. I mean, and it was a big thing, right? Like Aberdeen, Maryland. That's where they were doing most of it, and it's crazy, to get to meet somebody who actually can do that. And I want to check into some of the things she was telling me about my ancestor, and and see if I can follow up on that. That's really cool as well. And it's really interesting. I had a great time, guys. This was fun. This is definitely unique. I've never done a podcast or a live stream like this before. So really cool.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Well, everybody, appreciate it. Thanks so much, and
Yeah.
stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe, everybody.
All right.
Have a good night.
Good night.